When first thought, submit spirit to form matter. Our celestial humanity arrives, awakening from the dream, an inception of our reality. So we live, we love, and then there is music. So we dance, we sing, we praise, we reflect. In the infinite in between, the now that was, faces dance in our dreams. Some familiar, some
Ascended Visions Radio.
Cosmic composition. In the irrelevance of this time, we realize the passion of the random action, learning the lesson that the brotherhood of man is far more important than the ego of any individual. Imagination becomes the sound of thought, traveling at the speed of art. So we paint on the canvas of our ephemeral encounters with nothing. A masterpiece of memory that lives in the eternity of a child's soul.
I really would like to take all the things and people I love about this world into those realms of my mind divine where people live and party and whatever culture they did. And you know we in the picture. This current place is such a paradox that makes all those realities more real. I still hear mine. I still hear cold trains and monks, road reds and road, and a Google list of others I know. A place where you experience happiness in every smile, because no one is ever worried ever again, not in the least of a little while, because the All-Father has made a new covenant with man. Pharaoh vibes the Creator's master plan, and we jam at Paradise Blue. Chaos rebirth. We sip the nectar of the goddess, and all is renewed. The cosmos expands, a new reality. The thunder rolls, lightning strikes, diamonds dance, and there are no haters to bruise.
Ascended Visions Radio. Ascended Visions Radio.
Hey, brother.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm okay, man. How you doing?
All is well. Uh,
Good.
you ready to do our thing?
I'll do my best.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me I gotta lock this other note. But yeah, how you been, man?
Okay. This let me tell you, this computer is so much better than what I had been using.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It's. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir, brother.
That's a life changer.
Hey, you help me, man, because like right now what I'm facing is I may have to shift into another field of profession because they talking about mandating that we take this vaccine, and I'm just, it's just I don't want to take it. And I understand people, millions and billions of people on the planet say, we need to take it, this, that, and other. It's just that I don't believe that I should give in to something man-made, to something else man-made, so that I can be safe. I believe in the sovereignty of my own Lord within me. He created the heavens and the earth, every microscopic and macroscopic entity, and I don't believe that if I need to depend on these mad scientists to protect me. So that's just my stance. And then another stance is anytime you have a government and we're starting to force everybody to do something against their will, or they can't continue their livelihood like they were, that's the beginning of the deterioration of the freedoms that I as a veteran fought for. So that's why I might have to separate from the VA and whatnot and what have you, and so that's just how it's gonna have to be, But
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
But
I definitely get it. It's a matter of choice, and it's a matter of point.
yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that it's an argument with them, but I ask people what they think, just basically off of just to get an idea what people's minds are. But I've run across a couple that identify with where I'm coming from, but that's neither here nor there. But we'll get off of the age of Corona 45 though, and we'll get right into these important questions. So I'll start with the first. Who is Jerry the Cat, and how has he evolved over the years?
Well, that's 71 years worth of questions right there.
Wow.
That goes back to 1950. And when I look at the events that I've lived through and the events that I've witnessed, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. I wasn't sure what was happening. Okay. So, over the decades, when you think about it by decade, I think about the 50s, which had its own character, and the 60s. I've seen a lot of changes, and some of those changes were in the direction of world progress, and some changes were in the direction of extinction.
Okay.
Jerry the Cat versus Jerrald James. Jerry the Cat came about in the late 80s, early 90s. And it is strange because it came about, well, I had as a teacher a student who used to listen to the music that I was playing in the back of the classroom, because I was a math teacher, and when students were working on their assignments, I would play music in the back of the classroom. Normally, it would be house music.
Okay.
And I had a student who was a Yoruba priestess, very young, but nevertheless initiated. And she had a stepfather who had a radio show at the University of Windsor in Canada. And he had decided he was going to leave the show. And for whatever reason, my student approached me to ask me if I would be interested in taking over the show.
Okay.
And there's a lot more background story to a lot of this, because how I got into house music in the first place is another story.
Okay.
But house music basically opened me up to a new genre, which was electronic music,
Right.
which is more than house music. House music is techno, it's ambient music, it's drum and bass, it's a variety of genres that sprouted out.
Right.
And it opened me up to a whole different way of looking at things. That's another story. But anyway, this radio show, when it started, I decided I would take the show. I was still teaching full time. So this was just a hobby for me, because I had been collecting all this music and I wanted to share it.
Right.
And I got some background that had to do with producing music, and that started with Derek Thompson, also known as DJ Drivetrain.
Okay.
Who invited me to and showed me the way to produce music. And he showed me a software program called Cubase, and I started working with Cubase, and I was playing percussion all this time. I had started DJing as a result of Dwayne Hall, who is also known as DJ Overdose. And it was the gift that they gave me that opened so many doors that changed my life. But I was using the name The Cat because the show that I took over was a reggae show.
Okay.
And at the time, Super Cat, there were a number of cats in the reggae field, so I was just calling myself The Cat.
Okay.
And I called Derek Thompson and left a message on his answering machine and said, "This is Jerry the Cat." And the name stuck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He called me back and said, "Oh, Jerry the Cat, okay." And you know what? There's Tom and Jerry, but Tom is the cat.
Right.
It was an irony to it.
Right.
There was also an identity because I had in the early 70s briefly been a member of the Black Panther Party.
Okay.
So the cat was also something that I identified with. My first pet was a cat.
Okay.
Smokey the cat.
Okay.
And Smokey was so cool. Yeah.
That's what's up.
So it kind of became like an identity thing. You know, it's like there's a spirit identity that Native Americans believe in.
Right, the totems.
Each of us has.
Right.
And that's mine.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme in my existence.
That's an interesting story. Little interesting background. This is, I guess you could say, a 3-part question, because I'll combine all 3 of them so you can expound on it without having to ask them separately. The first one is, what is the mathematical dynamics of music that resonates with our spirit soul, and how important is music and the arts to the future of humanity, and what is our duty as artists and musicians?
All right, that's 3 questions.
Yeah.
The mathematical resonance I think relates to the circle of fifths, which in turn becomes a mantra. But in a way, that's an abstraction that cuts out another part. Because to the extent that it represents a mantra, that begins with the relationship between drumming and dancing. It's a symbiotic relationship. Dancing is actually a form of meditation, so is drumming taken properly, not just a way to ventilate rage. It's supposed to have nuance, and is supposed to be something that crosses over barriers. And by barriers, I mean the barriers of what we call three-dimensional reality. It's a vehicle for connecting the quantum nature of our existence and spirits to the rest of the universe. And when we play as musicians, it's in that arena that we bear responsibility because we're the guides for the spirits that are around us, and sharing that space through sound to connect to the mantra, to connect to other realms and other existences. So it's a ministerial kind of role, and we have to be aware of our messages. We have to be aware of the spirits we come in contact with, the vibrations we come in contact with, the connectedness that leads in different directions and paths and journeys. Our awareness is crucial to protecting those that are on that journey with us. So whenever we play as musicians, we should, at the core of whatever we're doing, be aware that we have that responsibility.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Another question along those lines, as far as the mathematics. Is mathematics so important now, more so than in ages past?
In terms of modern technology, I mean, all music, for example, is technology.
Right.
You pick up two bones and start beating on a log. That's technology, because technology is just what extends our capacity to express ourselves. Anything that extends our ability to perceive existence is technology. We have the five senses, so science tells us, and those five senses are expanded by telescopes and microscopes and different listening devices and so on and so on. Technology is something that impacts all of our existence, including the spiritual. Mathematics is a means of analyzing the abstraction and making predictions and finding perspective. And perspective is a key to really being able to grasp where we are and the importance of what we're doing. So yes, it continues to be important and will continue to be important as long as we continue to exist in whatever capacity. And it's a great tool.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Another two-part question. Two questions, actually. What is the journey or quest of man, and what does it mean to remember?
Well, the journey and quest of man, I hope, will be to find empathy. Because until we are capable of feeling what others feel, seeing what others see, sharing that to give depth to our understanding, then we won't be able to process the traumas that we suffered from the past. Trauma is something that has defined us to a certain point. And healing the scars and wounds left by that trauma is something that is not adequately addressed in the modern world. The healing process is in part something that has to do with empathy. In all sides of every conflict, and you can imagine the trauma that's been passed on from ancient battlefields to world wars to nuclear conflict.
Yes, sir.
Those traumas are something that don't just go away.
Right.
They don't leave the following generations unaffected.
Right.
That has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed in a healing fashion, or otherwise we will continue to be irrational, and by being irrational, we will choose extinction.
Wow.
So the number one thing that has to do with our journey is that empathy, because that empathy will reveal the necessity of being an integral part of a quantum universe. Because quantum forces can be violent or they can be harmonious.
Yes, sir.
And the harmonious aspect of it is also related to music, obviously.
Yes, sir.
And it points to the need for symbiosis, a symbiotic understanding that life depends on life to continue to exist and to be happy and to find fulfillment.
That's interesting.
Yes.
That's interesting. So how does that, what does it mean to remember?
Remembrance has to do with that connectedness.
Okay.
Because time is the basis of remembrance, but time doesn't exist only on a line or a plane. Many of the remembrances that we have come through our genetic code. So the experiences of our ancestors is transferred to us as well. It may be very subtle, but it's a part of what makes us who we are.
Indeed, indeed.
Understanding that is enhancing whatever we have in terms of our perceptions will give us a fuller picture of who we are.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Why does the world claim they love God and hate their brothers and sisters they see every day?
That's a part of the trauma.
Okay.
The irrational behaviors that we see dominate and conflict on themselves. It's part of the trauma. That's part of what has to be healed. And the healing process for that is dependent on perspective, and the perspective has to come from separating ourselves from the rage and the anger and the hatred, finding a way to transcend it, and also finding a way to see the humanity of those who hate us.
That's deep, brother. That's deep. That's deep to the mug right there. So along those lines as well, why do you think specifically women, children, and elders are so mistreated in this realm?
I think that there's a great fear because the current addiction is a hierarchy. At one time, society was matriarchal.
Right.
And that flipped prior to the Egyptian Empire. And patriarchal forces stepped in at that point, and that's where the fear took over. You see a lot of that in India and the Middle East. Patriarchy and hierarchy big me, little you. We are so much stitched into that fabric that subliminally we don't even realize it most of the time. And the patriarchal nature of that is fear of the matriarchy, fear of the feminine. So women take the brunt of it. Children are just objectified, and that's what the patriarchy does. It objectifies that which is not patriarchal, that which is not external strength. Yin is the enemy. Yang is the driving force. There's no balance. It's in effect a sign and symbol of, well, not symbol, but sign of weakness. Fear of that balance. Fear to allow people to be who and what they are.
Is that the same so for the elders as well?
Yes, because the elders, after they've stacked up so many years, have insights that they maybe don't have, and they see that
as a
elder
threat,
with the body breaking down as being weak, and weakness is to be feared.
Okay.
That's why sports, for example, are all warlike. The competition is against your enemy. It's not a competition with anything within, the way it should be. If it's a competition with something within, then it's not competition at all. It's an art form, athletic art form, which is what it should be. But sports now is warfare. Elderly is not capable of that type of sport. Elderly is subject to diseases. Elderly is subject to Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's to be feared and overlooked and ignored. And not allowed in a position of leadership.
Wow. Wow, you got a mouthful, brother. I ain't talking about that apple either. So that's a good segue into the next question. What is an ideal woman and why is she so elusive?
Well, that's the thing, is every woman is already ideal. And women have been subject to so much extreme oppression and torture over millennia. That what they have to do in order to survive, to have a sense of self, that's one of the things that requires the most empathy. We have to understand women have absorbed the worst of what we are. And they have to heal. And sometimes that healing process is very strange.
Yes, sir.
Not to say that we're not injured too, but
yeah.
In terms of who has been most oppressed across the races has been women. And they're the ones that are charged with raising children. That's the maternal aspect. It's natural because they come from their bodies. But that's why it's that much more required that they be treated with tenderness and understanding and empathy. Finding a way to see through their eyes and to help them to heal from the patriarchy. There is no ideal woman. There are women in the quantum, and each one has their own right to be who and what they are.
Uniqueness of individuality.
Yes.
I think that's what makes humanity such a multifaceted reality.
Yes. And it's really a trick of the mind because
It's all one.
we're all connected.
Yeah, it's all one.
Yeah.
It's all one.
It's all one.
Having said that, with the multiple directions of communication in the world today, what is language and how important is language to humanity?
Words are very powerful. They can inflict as much trauma as anything physical. Words can also create great art. And carry great healing. Language in words has its own way of conveying information. That information might be emotional information. But so does music.
Right.
And by that I don't mean singing. I mean wordless information.
Yes.
Language is something that is a word that can be applied to gestures, words, sounds, body language, telepathy. So it's not a simple thing.
Yeah. So you're saying?
And what's important about it is how we use it.
Yeah.
For some people, they use it to inflict pain. And they're very skilled at doing that. Some use it to deceive. Mislead. The ones and zeros of computer programming is another language.
Binary relativity.
Yes. And it can be used in the same way. Algorithms that follow you around to find out your personal data.
Yeah.
surveillance state of the patriarchy controlling every move you make, selling you, using hypnosis, exploiting the limbic system of the brain.
So does that binary relativity have any positive relations to our symbiotic relationship?
Yes. When it's open source as a symbiotic developmental process for new programs, new directions, new capabilities that's brought about by a symbiotic cooperation between programmers. That exists, and that potential is there. But those who would convert it to a means of warfare are there too.
Yeah.
So everything that we are is still there, same as with other languages.
So there's always a necessity for balance, what you're saying.
Yes. Yes.
That's basically the lesson of life, isn't that?
It is. It is. Sustainability comes about really as a result of cooperation and consensus. There's a lot that we're impressed by that has to do with the way that we tell stories.
Okay.
That tends to be what we remember the most. Stories. And those stories might be stories that take place in words, but they can be stories that take place through a song.
An image.
Stories that take place through a symphonic movement without words. Storytelling is impactful and could be a great force for the healing that we've been talking about.
Yes, sir. How important is our perception of image to its reality?
Unfortunately, we get caught up in image to the exclusion of depth of context. I think I began to see that really become dominant in my life right around the time that Ronald Reagan was elected. Up until the 70s, there was at least an understanding that there was more to our existence than what we see on the face of it.
Right.
But then with the 80s, it began to turn into posturing and posing. We became real suckers for that.
It seems that some would say that the '80s and the '90s are some of the I've heard they say the '90s was some of the best music. So does that show in the music of the '80s, that posturing and whatnot? What you were saying?
Yeah, the big hair, a lot of that that we saw from people that we admired. A lot of that was image. It was making an impression.
Okay.
But depth of character, that was something that was kind of pushed to the side.
Ask you one last question, and this is the grand finale. You can take as long as you want. What I won't say advice, but what words of wisdom would you have for the people of tomorrow and both the people of yesterday, if you had the equal opportunity to share with them, based on your view of life as you've experienced it?
Mutual healing is the only way for us to be relevant to the quantum universe. Clarity of purpose and identity, power, weakness and strength. All of these are words.
Yeah.
But reality is something that exists right now before the thought forms. It's wordless. Words are technology that can be used to create trauma or to create healing. Even to the point of the tools that we develop in our basements. They come about as a result of putting words together, putting mathematical formulas together. But how we use them, how we use our tools. Do we heal?
Or do we traumatize?
Or do we create trauma? Yes.
Wow. 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 I got a lot of self reflection and a lot of mostly everything you said, and I think that's powerful when you can express um, these answers and perspectives on everything to where it immediately gets the person to reflect internally instead of, let's see, a lot of people communicate, they always, a lot of people, not always, but a lot of people communicate with finger pointing. But from what I've heard you express, this is all introspective. This is like an introspective dialogue, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time sharing all of this. And
My pleasure, brother.
this is going to be a wonderful project, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm in some ways surprised, but definitely honored that anyone would listen. Thank you.
Yeah, you got a lot. I mean, I don't take anyone for granted. Even a 5-year-old probably has some insight into the new world, that they've come into at 5, And so a 71-year-old definitely has, some insight into life, and anyone older than me or a different experience. Each different individual human has a perspective that is unique to themselves and the view that they have on the world. And I think, it's my mission at this point is to captivate as many of those views as I can, so that when generations come later, they'll have better understanding of how to navigate the chaos, the trauma, and the healing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That is more than a noble mission. That is essential mission. That is anti-extinction mission.
Right. Because there is, like you said, there's conspiracy to destroy humanity right now.
Yeah.
And part of it is part of the alien agenda from afar, and a lot of it is self-inflicted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either
way, it serves a purpose.
Brainwashing and hypnosis of it all comes in.
Yeah, and either way, like you said, it's leading towards extinction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, brother. Appreciate your words of wisdom, and I'll be rapping at you and get back with you with as it evolves.
Okay. Well, peace, brother, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir.